being that you were so passionate and involved and had ideas where the company should be,
Mm-hmm.
and you had a money stake in it, no matter how minuscule, didn't you ever feel it was your responsibility when Sam was doing Sam-like things to say, hey, this isn't going to make us money. I want a return on my investment, and this is what,
Well, I guess not, only because the way I looked at it was I had done somebody a favor. I always felt the money was buried anyway. Okay. It wasn't a large enough stake for me to step in and try to enforce whatever, financial power I had on an equity basis. I only hoped that it would help me influence the situation. But keep in mind, once I got removed from it, and my passion was kind of gone from it, and that was for a lot of different reasons at the time. I didn't really care what to do. I wanted everybody to be successful, but if it went in the toilet,
Would you say Sam really had anybody in that position that really would bump chests or bump heads with him and say this is the wrong thing to do?
I think when push came to shove, probably not.
Okay.
I think it was one of those things where, hey, and hey, let me say this. I had a discussion with Sam DeCero about this too. I'll take it to the Vince McMahon, Bret Hart theory. Ultimately, right or wrong, there's a guy who owns that fucking company or has control of that company. Whether he is correct or incorrect is nobody else's business but his. Okay? He's at liberty to make whatever decision he wants. I may not agree with that decision. That gives me the liberty to leave, continue, do whatever I, choose to do. I was not the controlling interest in the company. I can offer my advice or what I felt should happen. But at the end of the day, that guy spent his hard-earned cash at the beginning, to start the company, and he deserved to be able to make that call.
Okay. Well, and
now that being said, did I agree with it? No. I mean, the one thing I can tell you is I think the biggest mistake Sam ever made. And you know what? I have no personal vendetta against Sam. I like Sam. Sam has always been very good guy. I can count on less than 2 fingers or 3 fingers the amount of times I had an issue with Sam. Okay, and they were stupid little things that I would attribute to Sam. But that's Sam. I mean, you either like people for what they are or you don't like them for what they are. I like Sam for, I like you for what you are. Most people don't like you, right?
I'll agree with that.
Okay, for whatever it is that you have, I enjoy that. Okay, and I would speak about you the same way I would speak about Sam. I have no issue with Sam. I like Sam. I haven't communicated with him in a long time. That's both of our issues. But I definitely disagreed with when he decided to take back over the booking situations, which is one of the reasons why I kind of exited, in addition to some other things that were going on personally at the time. He didn't want to, it wasn't that he wanted to have control, he didn't want to not have control, is what I thought. And I mean, I'll tell you right now, at the Madonna show, he was coming to me asking me, what do I do when I go out? That's how much control I had. I was telling him, Sam, you go do this, this, and this, okay? Just like I told everybody else. I'm not sure how long I would have continued in that capacity, quite frankly. And here's why. I do a lot of films. I'm very intrigued by being a director, believe it or not. But my problem with being a director is that when I have a vision and things don't come off exactly how my vision is, I get furiously upset. And I remember one of the first shows I booked thinking to myself, nobody is fucking doing what I'm telling them to do. The outcome would come out like that. But the dance never, the moves never came out like I wanted them to. Okay. Rarely. In matches I thought were extremely important. I have a soft spot in my heart for Erica because I put together a huge match at Madonna with the Furies and the Warlocks. And to this day, she was the only person who pulled off her spot in the whole match.
It's Erica D'Erico, for those of you at home. Used to be Drusilla back in the era that we're talking of Windy City history. So as we wrap up this leg of our conversation, it's not even an interview, I just enjoy talking to you. We can do 3 hours alone.
Standing on our head.
There's just so much that we haven't even touched on in Windy City, but I do want to kind of keep it chronology. I want to keep the chronology there. Chronological order. Look that word up, kiddies, because I can't say it.
There's an app for that.
There you go. But being that, we're talking about the downslide of Windy City, and
well, I think I don't look at it like a downslide of Windy City. I look at a downslide of the whole industry.
Well, true,
and part of that is Windy City. And again, and my stance. The dissolution of the commission was the biggest thing that killed Windy City.
I always felt, and this isn't my interview per se, but I always felt that if Sam had kept his mentality of, if you're not with us and you're on the outside looking in, we are the best. My guys can't work anywhere else. This is a Windy City product. If he had kept, it's the one time I felt Sam wasn't a big enough asshole. Everybody says, you know, this is a jerk.
Well, let me touch on that with the circuit idea too. And my whole premise behind that whole thing was, I always thought that Sam should encourage guys to spread their wings and go outside of the territory to work when we weren't busy. Unfortunately, I think at the time Sam's mentality was still, you know, we're the third biggest company in the country. Even if we were the fourth or fifth biggest company in the country, it didn't matter. There were guys for ECW who were doing independent shows all over the country, right?
Correct. So
I think that should have been more encouraged, and I think as you've seen from the guys who have, you know, branched out, they're the ones who have been more successful than anybody. Not necessarily Windy City guys, but just Chicago guys. But the whole point behind the circuit was it was going to eliminate the need to do that. All right? It was going to have guys working all the time. If they were off, they could go somewhere else and work. But that was going to keep that collective, you're either in or you're out mentality. I didn't want to go work for the LWF. I didn't want to work for whoever else. I wanted to work at Windy City. I could go watch any of those other guys and know their production value, their show was not as good as ours. They didn't have the talent, they didn't have the thing. I don't know if all that's changed. It probably has. I'm not sure. But the point was the circuit was kind of designed to create that big company feel, everybody working all the time. And I'm telling you right now, if we got the right TV deal, you'd have seen the same thing happen that happened at ECW. Within 6 months of them getting on TV, every one of their good stars was signing a contract and buying out that talent. But nobody, the problem with wrestling and wrestlers in general is that no one has an extended vision of what they want to do. All they know is they want to get a contract. But they don't know what they want to do to get from point A to point B.
Well, and that in that aspect, it still hasn't changed because everybody who's in the scene now, they seemingly have no desire to go anywhere beyond it.
Yeah.
You know, they just...
I think that was a great part about Windy City was we had enough guys who wanted to make it really badly, and enough guys who, you call them the hobbyists, but who took what they did locally seriously. Okay? It wasn't, I'm going to roll out in my, you know, we've all worn cut-off jeans and shit into the ring. I know I did. But that wasn't your regular attire all the time, or a sweatshirt or tennis shoes. You know, I mean, guys looked the part. They trained the part for the most part. They went to practice. They got their matches right. They knew their moves. They did their thing. And it was a collective group of guys that I thought wanted to get better all the time.
Well, but Windy City was also, we had television. It may have been public access, but it sure as hell didn't look like public access production. I mean, Sam spent the money to bring in the proper lights, the sound, the camera.
I'll tell you a funny story about how good the production was. This was actually before you got there, but my wife, currently, I remember in 1996 calling me, and I wasn't even living in Chicago at the time, and she was, and saying, "Oh my God, I was just flipping channels and saw you in a wrestling program." She didn't even know I was a wrestler, okay?
Okay.
But a 27-year-old woman who was a corporate buyer at Spiegel, you know, could flip around the channels and find Windy City back in the day.
Right.
Before you had a guide on your TV or anything like that. When you scrolled channels, Windy City was going to be on. That was huge. You know?
That's true. So to wrap up this part of our conversation, let's look at where Windy City is now.
Okay.
We've talked about where it was.
Yep.
But to my understanding and the things that are out on the internet, Windy City's no more. I mean, it's not running shows anymore. They've merged with this other entity. I think they're going to be calling themselves Dynasty. First off, did you know that this merger had happened? And if you did, would you have felt compelled to stop it and say, I have some kind of interest in this old company. If you don't want to run the show anymore, let me have the name, I'll do my own thing. Anything like that, I mean...
Well, if anything, I mean, I don't feel compelled for it. If anything, I think that if it was going to occur, in a normal business practice, generally when there's going to be, you know, a merger, provided the chairman of the board and the major stockholder is approving the merger, it's approved. Now, if it's a situation where that guy has 25%, you need a collective vote of the remainder of the shareholders. You know, it's a proxy vote or whatever the case may be, in order for that to be okay. And it's got to be okay by the board of directors. My understanding was that Sam was always the majority shareholder, and I think he set it up so that he never had anything less than 51%.
Okay.
So it's his decision to make. I certainly would have not expected some communication just to say, do you know of anybody else who might be interested? Are you interested? Whatever. I didn't expect that. I think Sam probably would figure, at least in my case, that since I haven't been in communication for several years and I live in California, that I wouldn't have any interest in doing it. And frankly, I wouldn't have had any interest in doing it because I think wrestling as a whole is in the toilet right now. I don't know what that thing is going to be to pull it out of there. Everybody seems to be on their MMA kick. I don't find that particularly entertaining. But I don't find the new people that are at the top entertaining whatsoever. So I think overall there's something lacking that makes it a bad continuing investment, personally. Which tears my heart out because, I still to this day think about watching Saturday night, NWA program. Those are some of those nights are the highlight of my life.
Is it insulting to you that nobody made that phone call and said, hey,
No, it's not insulting at all. It is what it is. I didn't expect it. I would have been shocked if there would have been a phone call. And again, I think for me, I was removed. Now, there may be somebody else sitting out there that owned 30% of the company that may feel very differently, and maybe they got a phone call. I don't know. But for me personally, I don't think my particular level of investment or the way I even got into it warranted necessarily a, hey, do you want to take over type of thing.
Your middleweight belt that you raised to the level of prestige, it's on eBay right now.
I'm aware of that. I'd like to get my hands on it, but I'm not a huge guy on nostalgia. I would like to have that because of the impact that I think personally I had on it. But the actual original belt, if you recall, is in the possession of Lee Sanders' family anyway, because he was the first person to carry it. So it wouldn't be the one I wore, regardless.
All right, sir. That wraps us up. This has been a conversation on.
Well, I hope it was good.
Conversation on Frame It Up with Bigtime. There's going to be many more with different guests, and definitely parts 2 and 3 with Stone Manson because we haven't even scratched the surface.
No, there's a lot more.
All right. Thank you, sir.
My pleasure, man. Good seeing you again. And by the way, I was impressed with the way you hung the other night. Not many people can do that.
If you haven't partied with Stone Manson, it's an event unto itself.
The rumors are all true.
Well, thank you, sir.
Hey, my pleasure.
Have a safe trip.
Nice having you at the house. Thanks.